when we talk about natural farming, how would you define natural farming? Just in your sense, so we have a common ground.
I'd say integrating byproducts of nature and animals. So we use minerals, we use waste byproducts from animals and ocean creatures and insects and stuff like that, and also from plants. So integrating byproducts from nature, I guess, is what you would say to cultivate your plant.
That's fair. That's fair. My next question following that is like, what do you think is the biggest struggle to natural farming?
The biggest struggle to natural farming? Getting carried away. Maintaining soil mineral balancing, and understanding that plants can express certain deficiencies that seem like a macronutrient deficiency when people need to understand that nutrients synergize and antagonize each other. So what I mean when I say that is sometimes you can have a deficiency in a trace mineral or a micronutrient that will antagonize a macronutrient and make it look like you have a deficiency of one thing when you actually just have an imbalance, too much or too little of something else. And people just want to take control and start overfeeding and overcorrecting. I think this kind of goes for all cultivating really too. People doing too much. People overcorrect a lot. And I think that's kind of universal. So maybe back to the original question is what's, like when we're talking about regenerative farming specifically, oh no, that's a good question. I wouldn't say that there's a big difference in the struggles.
I was kind of thinking like along the lines of, I had a conversation between somebody that was 100% against the collection of like kelp, like or natural resources, more so even like cocoa coir, and how extrapolating those resources from the environment, from nature, is far more destructive than the use of regenerative farming as a whole. So I guess I was kind of alluding to the idea of resource extrapolation and kind of environmental damage. That's kind of where I was going, but your answer was more personal.
That's a reasonable thing to bring up, and it is a conversation to be had for sure. And there's a lot of discussion like that within the regenerative community where people are talking about, we shouldn't use byproducts from industries that are creating a lot of carbon dioxide, so like, people talk about, like dairy farming or, cow farming, right? And
industrial
farming, using like blood meal and stuff, and how it's like, oh, we're supporting this industry that's destroying the world. And it's like, okay, well, do you eat meat? And people talk about, harvesting peat moss and how that is damaging ecosystems, from where it's harvested. Same with kelp. And there's ways around, if there's like a particular input that you think is damaging ecologically, like a big conversation that people talked about was like bat guano, how that was damaging ecosystems and stuff like that. And people just veered away from it and found replacements. So, I mean, if you don't want to support a certain thing, don't, and I think, but I think that's a good conversation to have. And I think that that's important to acknowledge that, like, we say regenerative, we say, we're improving ecosystems, and in the localized situation, I think we definitely are. Like, I've seen plots of land go from barren to thriving, using these practices. And, when we're using things like locally sourced, like if I'm going out and I'm fermenting blackberries or something like that, or I'm taking weeds and I'm fermenting them and using them on the farm, that's very closed loop, very, very localized, right? But when we have this conversation of like, I went and I bought a super sack of bat guano that was harvested from some mine that, it takes 1,000 years for that bat guano to regenerate, and all the bats are now running away, and now they're not eating fruit, and it creates this ripple effect of damaging the ecosystem. That's a legit thing to consider. And that conversation can be applied to hydroponic as well. Like when we're using chemical-based fertilizers, a lot of time people are pumping and dumping in coco coir and rock wool, and then they throw all their stuff in a landfill. And that nitrate, that phosphate runoff goes into the ecosystem, and it creates algae blooms. It contaminates our water. It's really important to acknowledge that a lot of industry is affecting the ecosystem in unique ways and in different ways. Like rock wool, like doesn't break down for some X amount of years kind of situation. And then we talk about like the biological impacts that chemical fertilizers have on native soil and stuff like that. It's like there's always something, right? We're talking on our electronics, and a lot of them, a lot of the inputs aren't ethically sourced. Like we live in a society that has these impacts on our ecosystems, and we kind of pick and choose which ones we prioritize. But I think it is important to keep in mind what impacts we do have on the ecosystem and how we're improving and how we're damaging them based off of what we're doing and how we're doing it. So yeah, I think that they both have ecological impacts. You know what I mean? I
totally agree with you. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot by any stretch of the
imagination.
No,
I appreciate that conversation, honestly. Like I legitimately do.
Rob wants to say something, but real quick, I asked about natural farming, and I'm very ignorant to this conversation as a whole. So please, forgive my questions if it sounds like it's a little mundane. I should have asked about regenerative gardening, because to me, the concept of is like, okay, well, if you're going to extrapolate for guano, for example, well, what if you were setting up something in contrast, so to offset that balance? So if you're scraping guano in one area, what if you were creating a habitat for those bats in another area or something, or at least kind of counteracting? But yeah, I don't know if that's a concept at all.
Sure. There's a whole bunch of different techniques that we implement that the intention is to regenerate nature, right? We can do like micro-remediation. We can, on my farm in Southern Oregon, we built bird boxes for raptor birds, because we had a lot of voles that ran around and like squirrels and stuff like that on our farm. And so we set up these bird boxes for the hawks in the area and just like the predator birds. And, we had an owl in our barn, and they came around and they would swoop up and do our rodent management process for us. And it's just like little things like that you can do to help, encourage nature to be your ally, essentially.
I think a lot of it's ethical sourcing is the key thing. You know what I'm saying? And as we're getting mass produced anything, it's being mass, taken from these environments, and it's not being done ethically. So like the local side of things, like you were talking about, I think is really, really big. And depending where you live, if you're out in Las Vegas where Chris is, you may be limited to some resources, but the fermenting aspect that you brought up.
This FTS clip was brought to you by AC Infinity, leaders in garden innovation. Use discount code TheStash15 at checkout to save some money on your order.
From the Stash Podcast.